Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host. The show is also known as PWD Allies Podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and promote the channel to all your followers and your friends, and etc. etc. The show is also it can also be broadcasted on the podcast on your favorite app. You've got your Apple Store, you've got Spotify. There's so many apps to choose from. So find the best one that's good for you. Today, I'm really excited to have on Sonjia and Patrick joining me today. And both are going to be talking about diabetes and disability. Now, diabetes, it's a growing a medical issue across Canada and around the world. More people becoming diabetic. They're diagnosed or undiagnosed. But today we're going to be diving right into that with Sonjia here. And hi, Sonjia.
Hello.
Hi. Well, yeah. So Sonjia is going to kind of take over the conversation from me here, and then I'm going to jump in from time to time. And Sonjia is going to have a great conversation with Patrick, because Patrick and Sonjia both have diabetes, so they have something in common right there. So
yeah.
Hi, Patrick, and thanks for joining me on this special broadcast and talking about diabetes and disability.
Sounds
and
good,
how
guys.
Does it affect, how does it affect both your lives? So I'm gonna step aside now, everyone, and I'm gonna put the mic over to you, Patrick, to start, and then Sonjia is gonna answer your questions.
Sure. Well, I got diabetes when I was 16. So I've been dealing with it for a while. And there are different types of diabetes, and that's something that's a little frustrating for those of us who have one type or the other. Is I find that people want to be helpful. Usually, sometimes they just want to be jerks and make us feel bad about what we're eating, for no reason. But there's a lot of confusion out there about what type of diabetes people have, and so what type of treatment is necessary. And when you have other disabilities to compound on top of that, it is a very expensive disease to maintain if you don't have coverage, and even if you do. There's things that just don't get covered always, like sometimes they'll limit the number of test strips you can use depending on the type of diabetes you have. Like if you're type 2, they might limit you to one test strip a day, which is just ridiculous because you need to have better control of your diabetes. I'm type 1, so I never had an issue with that. But before I got disability, ODSP here in Ontario, I was responsible for paying for my stuff out of pocket. And there were times that I had to ration my insulin because I couldn't really afford it. And, that's a common thing for a lot of people. You might have heard in the States, they finally negotiated a price for insulin that's like $35 a day or per box or something. They did a good job for people with diabetes. And here they're working on making it so that diabetics don't have to pay for things either. But it's still a very expensive disease. And, just getting the coverage was a game changer. But at the same time, it's kind of a trap because, I'd like to find a job. I'd like to do something. But there's always this fear that I'll get cut off from my benefits and not be able to afford my lifestyle, just basic insulin and things like that. Because, if I make too much money, I'll lose my benefits. So it's a source of stress as well as, a good thing.
Well, I just wanted to jump in quickly there, Patrick, because we know as well that you're blind. And I just wanted to ask an obvious question or maybe one of the stupid questions. Maybe I'm one, I don't care if it's a stupid question. I ask them anyway. But is your blindness related to your diabetes, or are they separate things?
Well, the one eye I was born without. I was born blind in the one side, so I wear a prosthetic. But the other is it's a retinopathy. I've been told different stories. I've been told that it's related to diabetes, and I've been told that it's genetic. So I'm not sure what the truth is, but I do know that, you know, not maintaining your diabetes properly can lead to blindness, among other things. Like, that's one of the complications that's very common. The other one is neuropathy, where you lose sensation in your feet and, you know, like your toes. And right now it feels like I wear tight socks all the time.
Right.
I'm barefoot right now, but it feels like I'm wearing tight socks. And
Yeah.
that's something to do with neuropathy, where you lose sensation. And I think that had I maintained my diabetes better, it might have been longer before I felt those complications, or not at all. I don't know. But that's how it's been for me.
Sonjia, how does the diabetes affect your life? Like, what are you going through in your life? I mean, dietary, you know, I guess supplements. Like, I mean, what are you having to do? And like, when were you diagnosed with diabetes?
Well, I was first diagnosed in the spring of 2009. And my doctor's office kept calling me. I just kept ignoring it. I didn't want to return their phone call because I didn't want to hear any kind of bad news. So I finally went in, and they said I had type 2 diabetes. And I went, okay. And so they got me on metformins and all that stuff. And so as time went on, my blood sugars were still high. And they had to do another reassessment test on me, and then they figured that I needed insulin. So now then they diagnosed me as type 1 after that. So I went from type 2 to being type 1 from a misdiagnosis back in 2009.
How long did it take them to change the diagnosis for you?
Oh, I think it was 3 or 4 months.
Oh, that's pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness for that anyway.
Okay.
At least they didn't drag it on for years, you know. And
no. And I started out with daily injections, and I didn't get an insulin pump until just recently. And 2000 since the NDP came into government is when I got my first insulin pump in 2017.
2017, yeah. Fall of 2017, yeah.
So another stupid question for me, because I don't know that much about diabetes other than real layman's things. Is it possible that somebody can have type 2 for an extended period of their life, and then be, I know you can be upgraded. I know it's possible to go from type 1 to type 2, but is it possible to see a downgrade of, say, going from type 2 for 5 years and then your health improving and going to a type 1? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Type 1 and type 2, they're really different diseases. Type 1 is considered an autoimmune disease. So what happens is your body attacks the producing cells in your body that produce insulin. So you have no insulin in your body whatsoever without taking a shot. Type 2 typically is related to lifestyle. So if you're overweight like me, you know, like, I'd be a candidate for getting type 2 if I didn't have it at all already because I'm overweight. Typically people that get type 2 have metabolic problems, like they're overweight. You can resolve it sometimes by losing weight if you're lucky, but not everybody. That doesn't solve it. You can have people that are 90 pounds soaking wet that get type 2 diabetes. It's not cut and dry that, you know, you're overweight, you're going to get it. It's something like 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 people that have diabetes or are going to get it. It's like a massive, staggering, big disease. In the States, it's such a big deal, and that's why they're pushing Ozempic so much, is because it's related to the overweight epidemic. Like, you see a lot of big people when you travel in the States.
Yeah.
I've tried that Ozempic once. My doctor, she got me on the pill form of it. Yep. I took one, and the outcome was not very good.
Well, you know, that's common for everybody that's taking it, is, you know, the the nausea, the puking, like it doesn't sound like a good time to me.
No.
I'd rather go for a walk, like.
Yeah.
I'd rather just, my dad's taking those every now too, and he's going through the rough time with it, and I just, but thanks.
Well, I was hearing that they're trying to bring in, like, Frito-Lay and the big snack companies are trying to bring in snacks that are friendly for people that are on Ozempic now, like ginger cookies and things that calm your stomach and make you feel less nausea, which is a good idea. But I don't know about ginger flavored potato chips. That might
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to hijack the conversation too much, but I just wanted to make a general comment that, like, I've actually, when I was when my son was born, my son was born when I was like 40, and he, so for the first 1 or 2 years of being a parent, I mean, anybody that's been a parent knows, like, the first 1 or 2 years of being a parent, they're just brutal. Like, you don't sleep. Especially the first year, you don't sleep, you don't eat very well, you don't look after yourself, because it's all about looking after your child, right? It just is by default, and so as a parent, you just treat yourself like shit, honestly, and you don't eat well. You're taking shortcuts with your eating. You're just like eating like say like grilled cheese every night, or like something really fast, like pizzas and things like that, right? Just to take whatever shortcuts you can. And as a result of that, as a result of like not sleeping and just treating yourself like shit for like a year or two, I started to develop a lot of gastro issues, and they've kind of gotten worse and worse. And honestly, maybe part of it is, I've heard this is a thing, that it's common for people that have cerebral palsy to have like urinary tract issues, which I've never had, luckily. Urinary tract issues, and also gastro issues. And I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. So anyway, when it got really bad for me, I had a doctor that prescribed these acid inhibitors. Stomach acid inhibitors, and those are they're nasty. Like, I started like looking it up on Google, and I know you can't really trust Dr. Google a lot, right? But you always take whatever you see on Google as a grain of salt. But I looked that stuff up, and there was like pages and pages and pages. I went on bulletin boards of trying to find like user reviews and like people that were actually using the stuff, and everybody was saying it's just nasty. Like, once you get on it, you can't get off of it, and like they're making their health worse. And I know I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I just wanted to comment on the state of our medications. They're supposed to help you, and yet they introduce a whole host of other issues. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to not take this and just try to cut things out of my diet and do things like I do, what is it called? The cultured yogurts, and so it's a lot of the good bacteria in the cultured yogurts, the kefir, it's called the kefir yogurt. I drink a lot of that in the morning to just kind of even out my pH balance, and I guess you want to call that in your stomach. Yeah. And that has helped me immensely, and I love the idea, like, because my doctor was really pushing it. Like, she's not my doctor anymore, but I had a doctor before that was really pushing these acid inhibitors, and I said, you know what, I just don't want to do it. And again, I don't want to sidetrack the conversation too much, but I just wanted to hop on this whole, you were starting the narrative about different drugs and that, and how I think we can get too comfortable or too dependent on different drug therapies, and
Well, I hear what you're saying. I think there is some benefit to the Ozempics and the GLP drugs. Like the newer one that was brought out by Lilly, I read somewhere that it has results that are close to like surgery. So if you got someone who's really like 600 pounds, like my 600-pound life, if you
Right.
can reduce their weight and extend their life, maybe prevent them from losing their feet because of diabetes, like, it's a real thing where, your diabetes causes your limbs to become like have less blood flow, and then if you injure yourself, you don't feel it, and you can get an infection and end up with gangrene and having to get a bone saw out. It's pretty bad. So I get, it's not pleasant to think about taking something that's going to make you kind of barfy, but I don't know, given the choice between that and going in for bariatric surgery, if that was the case, I would rather start with the feeling barfy for a while.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sonia.
Patrick, I just want to ask you, how do you, what do you take for your diabetes? Did you do insulin, like, do you do pump or do you do injections?
I'm on injections right now, and it's because of my vision. We've been talking, me and my diabetes educator, about adding the pump, but the problem is that the pumps I've been looking at, they're so tiny for filling up the reservoirs that I can't see, and until they come up with some accessibility things, I can't do it. Medtronic's pump doesn't look too bad, but I really want one that I can control with my phone eventually and see the results on my phone.
Because I'm on the Omnipod Dash, and this is what it looks like. It's a little, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
What I have right now.
And that just sticks on you?
Sorry?
That one, there's no tubes, right? It just sticks on your skin?
Yeah, so it's a portable one. You don't have to worry about tubing or anything. You put it put it on your stomach, you put it on your arm, you can put it on your leg. Yeah. Pretty neat, but it has its moments when it doesn't work. Like it'll stop working when, like, if your sight's not absorbed properly.
Okay.
It's not going through it, but it takes like about a couple hours, like up to 5 hours for it to actually work, and then it works fine. And then sometimes it gets bumped in the night when you're sleeping, or the only time you notice that is when your numbers are really high and they don't come down for whatever reason. Then have to change it and start over and find another site.
My doctor's told me that because of the way that I am, I'm better off with the injections and the long-acting insulin, just because apparently they were talking about that. Your pump can stop working and you don't know about it for like days sometimes, and then your blood sugar ends up being 40 and you don't know why, and like it can be dangerous. Have you had any of those issues where it just stopped working? And
that's when I noticed my blood sugar was up to like 20. So I fill up. Lucky for me though, I fill my insulin pump up with a pen.
Okay.
Because I cannot use a vial. I've tried the vial and I just can't seem to grasp it for some reason. Must be part of my disability, I guess, the learning disability of it.
Yeah.
Like the air bubbles and things, and with the pen it doesn't have the air bubble thing.
Okay.
So it just goes right through it, and that I find a lot easier. So when my numbers get high, I always correct it with a daily injection shot.
Oh, okay.
So that's the one part that I like.
With your pump though, Sonjia, like how much does it fill up though? Like
the pump itself fills up with 200 units of insulin every 3 days. Every 3 days, if it lasts that long.
Yeah, so she'll get a box, and then it'll and how many pens, and it'll last supposed to be basically a month's supply.
Okay.
And of course, you can basically tell Patrick what happens with that. Like if you end up
and if you overdo it, then the pharmacy gives you a hard time.
Yeah,
Like they say, oh, we can't fill you because you're too early for your results, and I'm like, well, it's not my fault. The pump falls off, and then
No,
And now
no,
the
and
basically got excess insulin in it, so then you have to throw it out because you can't use it.
Yep.
So now you have to redo it again, and now she's going through more insulin than what she's expecting to, and then the pharmaceutical place will whoever
and
she's
they don't write it down in their thing, and then
their little notepad and saying, "Don't worry." They said, but the government has to account for basically how much you can have as much as you need, but it has to be accounted for. But then with these mishaps, I mean, how do you know? Like, I mean, so there needs to be some kind of buffer where it says, okay, this is how much we're going to give you if you go over. I mean, you go over, but then they say, well, there's nothing we can do. And then, of course, then as a Sonjia, as a diabetic, I mean, that's the last thing you want to hear. There's nothing we can do. Now your numbers are going to go right through the roof. Anxiety,
goes, like,
right?
Through.
Yeah.
And also, this is what else I have. Is this thing right here? I don't know if you guys have it in Ontario or not.
I have the G6 right now. They won't approve the G7 for ODSP yet, and it doesn't make any sense because the G7 is actually cheaper than the G6. But
it actually looks like. Yeah.
Cool.
That's for every.
Mine's on my stomach. It's the G6.
I like the G6 way better.
You like the G6 better?
It sticks on really good compared to the G7. You have to get more tape to put over top of it.
The needle gets very flimsy for her, and she has to get special tape and go and buy extra tape, which now for money because it's not part of the doesn't come with the gadget.
Can you get your doctor to prescribe the tape, like as a peripheral? Like
the tape is not very expensive. It's like
it adds up though.
Well, you know what though, I've come to the point where I had to take Senecot for gastric, having to go to the bathroom, and I could go and buy it, or I could talk to my doctor and say, can you write a script for this Senna? And he did, and there's lots of things like that. Like I don't know if you ever cut yourself and you need polysporin, but I got a prescription for what's it called, Fusidin, which is basically the same stuff, but it's covered, so I don't have to pay out of pocket. And with diabetes, if you cut yourself, it's so important to keep the wound clean.
I'll have to ask him next time. I might know something that I don't know.
Well, yeah, like it's nickels and dimes, but it's not cheap. Like if you have to buy a $15, one thing I have to take is eye drops, just as needed for dry eyes, because they want to make sure my eye lasts as long as it can, and the artificial tears are like $10. But if I can get them prescribed, then it's free. It's.
Oh wow!
So this is what the Dexcom G7 app looks like.
Okay. It looks very similar to the G6.
Yeah, pretty much similar. Not bad numbers right now.
Does it let you put in details about like a logbook? Like, does it?
Yeah, it has all that. It tells you when your sensors expire. I have 6 days left of mine.
Okay.
You can change your alert sounds and everything on it, like your highs and lows.
Because on mine, what I like to do on mine is, I don't always remember, but when I do remember, I like to put in, my dosing of insulin. And but one thing I'd like to be able to do is record what I'm eating, and it doesn't give me that. It just, mine's very similar to yours. It's
Oh yeah.
But then I go into events, and I can add things to the logbook, like if I'm taking fast acting or long acting insulin, or
I think mine has that. It has blood glucose, insulin, fast or long acting, meals. You can do carbs you've eaten.
Okay, does it let you does it let you record what you're eating, not just carbs? Because sometimes we have takeout and I don't know what the hell I'm eating. I don't know. I don't know how many
carbs you've eaten, and it tells you you can write your meal description in it, and here's what it looks like. I don't know if you can see.
Kind of. Yeah, description though, that would make such a difference with what I'm using, because it doesn't give me any note fields to put in like any
really?
details. Yeah, it's been a complaint for people that use the G6, because apparently the American version of G6 lets you do all sorts of things that
and with G7 you can use it as a calibration. If you think the G7 is not accurate, you can prick your finger with your I use this contour.
Oh, I have something similar. When I update my my iPhone, it says don't update, it might go out of whack. You know, like it warns you that
it doesn't do that. It's fine.
Oh, mine does all the time, and it's such a If I update, like when iOS 17 came out, I updated, and this is the whole reason I switched from Android, was because, you know, Android, it gave me a big warning as soon as I installed the Dexcom that if I allow it to update the operating system by itself, it may not be accurate anymore. So I said, hell with that, I'll just go to iPhone. And it was good for a while, but then they started giving the same warning. So it's, yeah. And that's when I have to prick my finger to make sure, because it'll say that I'm like 2, but I'm actually 10, you know, like, some really bad
readings,
calibrations. Yeah.
I've got an appointment with BC Diabetes on October.
Okay.
And they're gonna get me to do it yourself pumping through your phone.
Oh, cool.
And it's gonna talk to the Dexcom G7, and it's gonna do exactly what the Omnipod 5 is doing.
Wow.
Like, it's gonna correct everything on its own, and you don't have to worry about.
So is this a trial? Like, is it an experiment that they're doing?
No.
Or is it? Because I was told, my diabetes people were telling me that I was looking at getting the tandem pump. And it's supposed to work directly with the G6, I think.
Yeah.
But Health Canada hadn't approved it yet or something.
I can't get the tandem here in BC because it's not covered, and neither is Medtronic. The only ones that are covered under BC is Omnipod and I think it's called Insulin.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know much about that thing, but
I don't know why they restrict it so much. I mean, I get that they're expensive, but you know,
should be universal across the province.
And then they sign you on a 5-year contract that you can't get out of.
Oh yeah.
When you sign up pumps, yeah.
Oh, the pump company does that to you, or does the government?
I think it's a pump company that does.
Well, they want to get paid, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
How dare they? They should. It should be a charity.
So like when a new pump comes out and you're halfway through your thing, and then you have to wait, and
you're kind of stuck in that contract. It's like a cell phone contract, and you get stuck, you know.
Yeah. Well, they're not cheap. I had a pump years and years ago that was a Medtronic, and it was I think it was over $5,000 that was the price tag on it, and it was before they were covered. But thankfully, I have private coverage that covered like 95% of it. Like it was good. But when my site failed, and you know, they thought it was not a good idea for me to continue with pumping. And now they want me to do a food diary and all this other stuff to even consider going back to the pump. Like there's so many hoops they make you jump through to do what's healthier, you know. It's frustrating.
The kind of food, Sonjia, like what do you have to watch eating?
I just have to stay away from, like, you know, the pastas and the you know, the bad things. Chips and pasta.
If it tastes good, spit it out, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I don't care too much for pasta much anyways, really. I'm not a big fan of it. I'll eat it every once in a blue moon, but not every day I can. I just stick to the basic protein and vegetables, or salad, or whatever's on sale, I'll find. I'll go. Have to
My
go.
problem is I'm on the seafood diet. I see food and I eat it.
Yeah, there you go. That's the best kind.
Yeah, I like that. Especially the chocolate cake.
Oh yes, the chocolate cake. Yes.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, when we were on our trip and on the train, that was. I tell you, I had a hard time with my diabetes during that days on the Canadian train because really you can't move around a lot.
Yep.
The only way you can walk is from one end of the car to the other end, which we were lucky because our car was near the front.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had 5 cars to
And
walk through.
we had to walk like 6 cars all the way to the dining lounge.
Yeah. So you get a little bit of exercise for that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And
Like 5 cars, but the 6th car was actually in the lounge. So yeah, it was quite a ways. It took about 11 minutes to walk all the way through each
That's
way.
not bad.
I had to drastically change my background insulin really up there.
Okay.
Because there was not much hardly any movement except for because they kept giving you these rich foods. Like
Gourmet.
Gourmet, homemade.
They had the chef on the train, so they should make everything from scratch and
Chocolate cake, and then they had carrot cake, and then they had oh my goodness, they had what was that other cake? Cheesecake of some kind, and
cheesecake. Yeah.
You know,
they
it's
had ice cream, and then they had
ice cream the odd time.
Well, I had this really bad cough, so I couldn't wait for the ice cream, but that really helped out a lot.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of it wasn't a big serving of ice cream, so that really didn't affect me too much. So, but they had food like salmon and steak and chicken, and then they had veggie lasagna, which was
so
the
good.
best.
Yeah.
I loved that.
That was my last meal on the train. It was so good.
I had that twice actually, the veggie lasagna, because I said, well, like it was easier for digestion for myself, like for me. I mean, and I'm not diabetic, but I thought, well, this is really good. Like it was actually, I didn't get any effects of any like bloating from.
But the thing is, I couldn't eat that whole cake. I only had maybe a third of it, not even a third. And then it really spiked my blood sugar. And
of course, guess who had to eat the rest of it?
Yeah.
Oh darn!
I already had mine. Oh my God!
Well, I went up to like 17. I was like, sitting in the back seat of the parked car, like getting antsy. I'm like 17. I'm like, oh no, what do we do?
So she goes for a walk, and I'm just sitting here talking to some other fellow passengers. She goes for a walk all the way down. She says, well, I'm gonna go find the restroom all the way down, or that's what they say in the U.S. is a restroom, but in Canada it's bathroom or yeah.
And they got these dome cars where you have to climb a little bit of stairs,
which was good for her.
So I just go up and down the stairs a few times, and
she worked off for dinner.
My first cruise that I ever did was Alaskan cruise. It was it was called a realignment cruise. So it was like a 7-day. Actually, no, it was a 4-day realignment cruise. It was only to Ketchikan and back, basically like 2 days up and 2 days back, from Vancouver to Alaska and back again. So for 4 days, and but it was a kind of a good taster cruise because it was cheap, and you could try all the food, but that was like 25 years ago. So I was a lot younger than him. So was my stomach, of course. But I mean, that the food on those cruise ships is just amazing, right? Like what I loved is, I mean, everything's paid for, like for the food. The only thing you pay for if you want it is alcohol.
Yeah.
Everything else is completely paid for. So like when you go down to the fine dining, I mean, everybody's dressed to the nines too. They're all like, everybody's in like a fancy suit or tux, and all the women are in like fancy dresses and stuff. It was really cool to see. Like it's like almost like a scene out of the Titanic. Everybody's all like dressed to the nines. But the amount of food, like what you do is you all sit down at these tables, and then you'd have a choice of say there was like two mains you could choose from, say like a salmon dinner or like a steak and lobster or something. So you'd say, well, I want to try the salmon dinner. Well, if you like the salmon dinner but you wanted to try the steak and lobster, you could say, well, could I have the steak and lobster? And they would bring a whole other plate and you eat that. And then for the desserts, they'd have like 8 different desserts to choose from, and you could try them all if you wanted to. And like we basically would, you know.
How do people not gain 10 pounds?
Oh, I know, it's just nuts, right? But like,
at least on the cruise ship though, you got lots of room to walk around. Huh?
Yeah. Well, they have a gym. They usually have a gym on board too.
They do, yeah.
I went on a cruise in Caribbean one time, and it was like that. It was, you know, you had to dress up for dinner. They didn't let you wear shorts to the dining hall, you know.
Yeah.
But if you didn't feel like getting dressed up, you just go to the buffet all day, and you know.
Yeah. But that's where the really good food was. It was in the formal dining, so you kind of wanted to do it because that was where the very best food was. I mean,
I just didn't want to wear pants in the Caribbean. It's too hot. You know?
That's true.
Well, when we were on the train, when we were in the U.S., like they had they called it semi-formal dining, and they basically brought your food automatically to your room, and we said, well, we just want to go to the dining room. Well, they didn't have the actual dining room car on the train. They actually had the cafe car. Sure, you could go and sit in the cafe car, which was fine too.
Yeah.
And the attendant, no, I'm gonna bring it to your room. It's like, well, I want to walk off dinner after. Like every time I turn around, it's like, oh man. I mean, it was great customer service, and I gave them like 2 thumbs up to that. But at the same time, it was the social aspect of just having people around, like you're sitting down in the dining room, and rather than being enclosed, I mean, it was nice to have maybe the odd meal, but it became a little bit monotonous after a while, because it's like, well, come on, you know. But getting to about the fine dining.
Well, at least that one was only just one night.
Yeah, exactly. It was like less than 24 hours or around there. Actually 20 hours and a few minutes. But we had our entree, you know, and you get a salad to start with, and then you get your main courses. So we had like 4 options to choose from, and then of course you get your dessert too. But these meals, even on the Canadian, on the Via Rail and the U.S. Amtrak, the portions, Patrick and Neil and anyone listening, I mean, the portions were huge. Like they were huge. They were enough for like 2 people to basically eat that meal. I mean, except maybe the veggie lasagna. That was, probably not for one person, but the helpings were there. It got to a point where I didn't even eat my dessert sometimes. Like I was, I'm like, no, I can't eat this. Like, and of course the waiter comes by. Oh, you don't like your dessert? No, I like it. I just can't eat it. Can I save it for later? No. Of course, they wouldn't want you to take that with you, right? But they wouldn't serve alcohol in the Canadian unless you wanted to buy it. It was. Sonjia, you can tell them the story on that one. This is good, everyone. This is good. Listen to this.
We were on the Canadian. I asked the guy, so do you get a free drink with your meal?
Yeah.
A free alcohol. He said, no. I said, oh, that's too bad because the Amtrak does. One free drink. And he goes, well, this isn't Amtrak.
He said, this is not Amtrak. This is Via Rail. This is the Canadian. This is the Canadian way. I said, no, the Canadian way. Well, I said, well, maybe they should go the Amtrak way.
Yeah, the Canadian way sucks. Jeez.
You would think at Costco they would include that in, right? I mean, maybe just one drink. I mean, no.
We've got some weird liquor laws here in Canada. That's what it comes down to is, like if you want to go somewhere with all you can eat, all you can drink, you got to go outside of. It seems like you got to go outside of North America. You got to go Mexico or, like Caribbean, because our laws are so restrictive about drinking. Like, I don't get it.
It's getting pricey here too to just get one nice bottle of wine for. You just might want to have a glass of wine every so often. Like I don't drink hard at all. Only when my mother comes over.
Yeah. Her mother would polish back a whole bottle. She went over. So she came over to visit. She got a big bottle, and it was 2. But then when she does polished it back, it was gone. So,
I like a beer with dinner. Pizza and beer, that is a good
Oh, yeah.
combination. You know, just
The
can't
only
beat it.
beer that I drink is the Stella beer.
Oh, fancy stuff.
That's a good one. I don't like the other.
I'm simple. I like Budweiser.
Yeah.
Budweiser and a pizza. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Well, they had that on the Amtrak. They had Budweiser. They had a Stella. So I figured, she wanted to try a Stella just to see
Yeah.
what it felt. And she always reminded of from
From Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. Stella.
I used to drink beer, but my stomach can handle it. But one of my favorite beers, actually, and I'm gonna show my Canadian colors, is Moosehead beer. Moosehead
Oh
beer.
yes, yes.
It's great. I love it. Yeah.
Yep.
But
Oh,
I can't drink it anymore because of my stomach. But
Can you drink anything at all, or does all alcohol affect you?
yeah, like at Christmas time, I'll have a little bit of Bailey's or something. That's about it. Or like maybe like one rum and eggnog with just a tiny bit of rum in it or something. And that's the extent of my drinking now. Yeah.
Because with beer, I've noticed it doesn't affect my blood sugar as much so bad as what wine does.
She doesn't spike her up.
Oh,
It's not as sugary as wine is.
I find that certain beers, there's certain beers I can't even drink. Like they just not agree with my tummy at all.
But sometimes wine also lowers your
well,
blood
it can. Yeah. You know what? I found I don't go as often as I used to, but I'd go to different churches and take communion at different places. And I always felt I was being ripped off when I went to one that was using grape juice instead of wine.
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to pull here?
Yeah, I should say that's the only time I have wine now is at communion, and sometimes the little wine glasses are like they use really nice wine, and it's like wow, but I can't drink a lot of it, unfortunately.
Well, when we were on
it's very sweet stuff.
We were on the Via Rail, Patrick and Neil. They gave out the local brewery type of beer that were on there, and so it was promoting all their local breweries across Canada. So they didn't have any traditional brand names on there. So you say, well, I want a Budweiser. What? No, we don't carry that. They would have some other, not even generic kind, but stuff that you've never even heard of. There was this one I got, and it was actually not bad. Like I'm not a big beer drinker, but they had this one. It was like a fruity type of taste of it.
Okay.
There was another passenger on there. He said, "Oh, what is that?" I don't know if I dared to want to try it. I said, it's actually not bad. Sonjia tried a little bit of it too, so I just poured a little bit there for her, and she's like, "That's actually pretty good." And she doesn't really like beer too much, but she didn't mind it. And so
it was kind of like a fruity kind of a beer.
Yeah, and it was
we've got a brewery here in Barrie called Flying Monkeys, and they make a fruity beer. It's like a berry beer or something like that. It's something to do with the what was that movie called? The Flying Monkeys. Over the Rainbow.
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, yeah. They got all sorts of Wizard of Oz themed beers. It's kind of cute.
No.
Huh? This one?
No.
No, don't show that one.
Don't show it. Don't show it, and you're showing it anyway.
Yeah. And that was on the Via Rail. Like it was complimentary. They were giving the stuff out. I'm like, oh, I thought, well, geez, like. No,
champagne was really good.
First I said no thanks, because I figured you had to pay for this stuff, right? And they were handing it out for free. I go, somebody says, and that's a pate, and it actually stayed on there actually after that photo. It's giving out, so I thought
pate is not for everybody. That's for sure.
No.
But that champagne was really good though.
They had other ones. They had salmon. They had salmon ones. I didn't mind that.
I had which one?
They had avocado. They had avocado one too, and and carrots and avocado, and that was really good. I really
sounds really good.
So they came by now. The little caterer was coming by, and she was giving an announcement of different areas of scenery stuff around the area, and it was almost like one of those tourist groups, and So she was describing stuff, and then she was bringing by hors d'oeuvres and stuff. And she actually says to me, would you like another one? Ma'am, would you like another one? She goes, sure. Yeah, we got extras. So more champagne for you too, right? Oh, okay.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
gonna ask one more thing. Which types of insulin are you using? Do you use, what kind do they have in Ontario?
I use Novo. I use Fiasp for my fast acting.
Yeah.
I was on Novo Rapid, but they switched me to the Fiasp. It works a little faster. And for the long acting, it's Tresiba.
Okay. Way than what I had.
What's that?
The way different than what I had. I don't even recognize those names. In BC, all we had was, we started off with Humalog,
Okay, yeah.
but then they went and traded it in for Admilog because it was cheaper.
Yeah, generics.
And
They covered generics 100% for me here, but I have a little bit of private coverage, so I use that to get the newer type of insulin. And I hear mixed reviews over whether it's faster or not, but it's got vitamin B or something in it that makes it work a little better. So
I've got a question again, and again, I mean, I'm not the expert here, so I'm asking a dumb question again, but like, how much cost do you figure that you incur every month? And I can ask the same thing for Sonjia as well. That isn't covered by government. Like, is there any extra cost that you incur every month that related to your diabetes that isn't covered?
Fortunately, the only thing that isn't covered is the newer type of insulin that's covered by my private plan.
Okay.
And that one, it cost me out of pocket $21 per month.
Okay.
So it's not horrible. It's not horrible, but that's 80 or 90% coverage for the private. So, that tells you what the actual insulin's. If I had to pay out of pocket, which I used to, it was several $100s per month supply. Like, it was a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, everything's covered, so I'm pretty lucky there. Like,
that's good.
Most part is all covered. The other things I have to pay for is the alcohol wipes and the tape thing for my.
Those are covered for me, but I'm actually I don't know. Do you get a meal bonus with the BC disability where they give you a little extra money for special diet?
Oh, I got that one. They just increased it. So I still don't even feel it.
No.
I don't even feel that it's even there.
No, it was like $50, and that was $50 10 years ago. So it means like 2 grapes today. It's
Do you have to apply for it every month, or is it something they give you every month?
I think because I had to apply for it once, but then it's permanent after that.
I did that once a lot. This was like a long time ago. Yeah, since 2009, I believe it was since they had it. So
it used to be $35 in BC, and then they just finally upped it to
$7.
Yeah, just a year ago. There was up to 60, I think, wasn't it?
It was
60 or I don't know. She doesn't even feel any.
I don't even feel the increase of it
because of the inflation buying power.
Just like the 125 we got last year, I don't feel it. I feel.
Basically covers a box of sweetener, a couple of boxes of sweetener,
Well, it's like they gave an increase last year, and so Sonjia was just saying the other day, she goes, I don't even feel that increase they gave last year. I go, well, no, because a lot of it went to increase in rent, and the rest of it's all gobbled up because of the inflation, like cost of living. And then this year they didn't give an increase at all because meanwhile cost of living is even higher. I mean, go figure, right?
Yep.
And then we get a 3.5% rent increase too. So it's like, let's don't give an increase this year.
They're just trying to squeeze you. That's not good.
Meanwhile, she's got to buy that special tape. Maybe an idea, maybe to talk to your doctor. And see if
even about the swabs, maybe they can cover the swabs if you get a script. You know, like That's what I discovered is there's lots of hidden costs with diabetes, like foot cream. You're supposed to put foot moisturizer on every day, and if you don't get covered, that stuff's really expensive.
Oh,
So,
I know. I bought a big bottle. It was like $20, and
That's up.
yeah, and you got to be careful how you put it on, not between the toes and the different. They teach you all sorts. When I first got diabetes, they actually kept me in the hospital for 2 weeks because I was really underweight. I had lost a lot of weight with it, and they spent 2 weeks teaching me how to manage it. Like, they don't do that anymore for people that get type 1, which they should, because
I know I lost a bit of weight too when I first. That was one of my symptoms actually, was weight loss and exclusive thirst. I mean, I was so thirsty. I was working at this lawyer's office one time, full time, Monday to Friday, from like 8 to 4, 5, something like that. And so it was just doing mail delivery, in the office, and it involved a lot of walking and a lot of exertion stuff. And I didn't notice I had any symptoms, but I just kept putting it off. I think, I'm drinking too much water. Then you're going to the bathroom lots. Like, had to take lots of bathroom breaks when I was delivering the stuff, and that's the thirst, and then that's how I started out.
That's that's one of the major symptoms is the thirst and peeing all the time. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, you just eat whatever you wanted, and you didn't gain any weight or anything. At first I thought, okay, I'm losing weight by working and walking, yay.
Yeah, nothing to do with that.
No.
It's too bad.
And then once you got your insulin, then you gained all your weight back. And
and that's the difference between the diabetes and disability. Like disability, having a disability on top of the diabetes. Really,
that's why I say when they try to show me how to use the vial, I could not figure it out. I still can't figure it out.
Well, and again, Patrick, you've got your disability on top of on top of the diabetes too. So both you and Sonjia are coming in at the same way. I mean, different disabilities, but the same thing of having a disability as well as the diabetes.
And I think there's probably other diseases like that where, like for me, the depression was a big one that gets in the way of managing other conditions more effectively, because it just saps your motivation to do anything.
I do that sometimes also. I just don't want to go out or do anything. I just want to sit and play on my phone, and that's it.
You're
so tired, you just don't want to do anything.
And you just saw your doctor, your other specialist, just the other day too.
Yes, I had a cardiologist specialist the other day, and finally he said I was doing okay. So
that's good. That's good. Congratulations. You don't want bad news there. I'm going through kidney treatment now because I have stage 3 kidney disease. And that is related, they think, to the diabetes because, if your blood sugar is too high for too long, it punches holes in your kidneys and could end up needing dialysis. But thankfully, I'm not all the way there yet. So, that's one thing. But that's another diet thing you got to watch out for. If you end up with kidney problems, you got to start watching how much potassium you consume.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
And, like potassium, that's one of those things. It's not listed on everything. You got to kind of know. And then it's in everything. Potatoes, you're supposed to double boil them, like boil them, then change the water, boil them again. Like double boiling things because there's so much potassium that can cause cardiac problems. So, it's complicated. And then you got to watch the sugars as well. So, it's exhausting.
Oh, yeah, tell me about it. And then you go out to eat, and it's like you're watching everybody else. If you're at a fast food restaurant, you're like, oh, look at that, they're all eating, they're all normal. Well, you don't have to worry about taking insulin before your food. Must be nice.
Right.
Yeah.
even a person that's not diabetic, they still have to be careful of what they eat in general too, right? In moderation. It's
Well, they're supposed to, but it's not gonna kill you instantly, or
no,
like it's not gonna make you have to pee all day if you
yeah,
Yeah.
eat poorly.
Yeah.
It's just
yeah,
it
in
is
moderation. It's and then it just that's how it is in life. It's just when you have diabetes, I'm sure, just in moderation, right? Patrick and Sonjia. I mean, having some enjoyment of the odd time having something that you really enjoy, but then kind of count for how many calories that is, and how many carbohydrates, etc., and how much insulin that you need to take for it, or walk it off if you can, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and then sometimes, sometimes my pump too, I get really frustrated when it doesn't work.
Oh yeah.
I get so
Our anxiety goes right up to the roof.
yeah, I get so mad, and then I just want to just
She wants to
end it
throw,
all.
she wants
I
to
just
throw
want
it
to
across
just
the room.
throw it and let the bus run over it, and
yeah.
and something because
Or maybe a train.
and then it works good, and then you want to go, oh, maybe I should go back to daily injections, but then I don't want to do that because it's not convenient when you're out and about and everything, and yeah. When I get frustrated.
Oh, I don't blame you. It is an exhausting disease,
Yeah,
And it's like, oh, you want to go out for a walk, but you can't because your blood sugar's too low, and when your blood sugar's too low, you start walking, it'll go even further down.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I mean, we're getting close to the end of the show, but maybe a good thing to end off on is the idea that all disabilities, but I mean, diabetes is a great example of that, where I mean it takes a lot to manage it, right? But every disability is like that, where it's a lot of time and effort to manage these things. And again, you kind of wish governments would wake up to that fact that, if you just gave a bit more money to people so that they could manage the disability, or they could manage the diabetes and stay ahead of the curve, rather than waiting until it got really bad, and then, oh shit, now you're having to be hospitalized, or now you're having to do, go up a level and get more expensive or whatever, right?
Yep.
Like there's always an advantage to stay ahead of the game and manage it at a level that's not as difficult and not as expensive, because every disability is like that. Every disability has a price tag to it. I mean, we say it a lot on the podcast, but honestly, even if we say that every time, it doesn't get said enough. Every disability has a price tag attached. And I mean, I know you just said, Patrick, that you're lucky that you don't have a lot of cost attached to your disability or to your diabetes, and that's great. But the fact of the matter is, almost every disability does have a price tag attached. Like, again, in my case, like things like massage and chiropractic. A lot of the chiropractic doctors, and like I've asked, like the one that I go to here for chiropractic, and also the massage that I get, they're both not covered by the province. So I'm paying out of pocket every time I want to go for a massage, or every time I want to go for chiropractic. It's they're both not covered, so I'm out of pocket for that.
Oh, that's no good.
Yeah, so, and it just, but I mean, that's just one example, but there's so many examples where people are paying out of pocket for a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, with, go ahead.
I just want to mention to Neil about my nurse that I saw at the Royal Jubilee here said I can qualify for the disability tax credit.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay. So I told her, okay, thanks anyway, but I'll think about it. But see, the thing is, I don't have a doctor here in Victoria. My doctor is all the way out in Cloverdale on the mainland. And he's the only one that can sign for this sheet, which I would have to probably pay $150 What is it,
up to $150 in some cases.
$50 for it?
Some cases it's less. It depends on what the doctors want to charge, but there's always a fee involved.
And then I would also get all this money back from the day I was diagnosed to but how do I know if that's going to get clawed back from the BC government?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know mine wasn't. What I did, because I got the disability tax credit years ago, around the same time that I got ODSP, and what I did was I took the money that that I got back and I threw it into my RDSP. So you know, like it's snowballing in there, it's growing. I don't know about clawing back. Like, do you have asset limits there in BC? Like here in Ontario,
we do, yeah.
In Ontario, we're allowed $40,000 in total assets.
Yeah.
Can't get it anyway.
You know, I mean, I have an RDSP too, and I mean they're good. I mean, I don't want to crap all over them, but the huge thing that I don't like about the RDSP is that, I mean, in order to take advantage of the RDSP, you basically have to have money to begin with, right? Like you have to have money.
Yes and no.
You have to have money you have to have enough money to put into it and let it grow. Like in my case, again, I only had enough money to basically put in and start one, and then ever since then I never put another contribution in. And
well, you should be getting $2,000 a year automatically added to it.
Yeah, and that's and I do, which is great. But I'm just saying, like, you know, the fact of the matter is that people with disabilities don't have a lot of money to even start one. Like,
no,
I mean, it was a big thing for me to say, here, let's put in like $500 to start like, I mean, $500. That was a big ask, you know. But both my wife and I did it. My first wife, we did it. But I mean, it was like $500 is not a small thing. But we started it, and but ever since then, I mean, now I'm too old. I can't do any more contributions anyway. But I never contributed after that. It was just the one contribution, and that's it. And even with the one contribution, it's already up to like $20,000, so that's great. But I mean, how many people with disabilities out there don't even have the $500 available to start one? You know,
I think what it's really for is I think it's really for families to contribute on behalf. Because it's so complicated to give somebody money that is on a disability program, because you don't want to get them to the point where they're cut off or clawed back, right? So I think it's kind of a loophole for wealthier families to be able to give money and leave money for their kids. I don't know that it's really for those of us that don't have anybody to be able to put away money. Like, it's sad, but I think that is a flaw in the system. It's not set up.
It's a huge flaw, obviously, because I remember many years ago, my bank had said, well, have you thought about an RDSP? I go, what is an RDSP? Well, it's a registered disability savings plan, Brent. You need to go to and talk to your doctor. My doctor goes, well, you're already disabled. I don't need to fill out other forms. I go, for the province. I go, okay.
That's a shitty doctor is what that is.
Yeah, exactly. And so I phoned up CRA and I said, well, my doctor says apparently something about an RDSP and he doesn't want to do it. Okay, well, every time you file your income tax, you keep indicating, this has come from CRA, you keep indicating that you're a person with disability. I go, I do have a disability in BC. Well, you need to have this, the other tax certificate on file, and we don't have that on file for you. I go, well, how do I get that? You need to get your family doctor to fill it out. I go, he says he won't fill it out. Why not? I go, because he says you're already disabled. It doesn't need to claim that you're disabled more. And she goes, well, that's the only way that you're going to get these other benefits. And if you don't do it, you can't get the RDSP. I go, what? Go, yep.
Yeah.
So I go, what? That's messed up. And then you can only contribute you can only be eligible until you're 49 to basically get that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another flaw in the system.
Yeah,
But if I had a kid that was 18 and, disabled, I'd be ensuring that they were registered in that program, because $1,000 a year until they're, or $2,000 a year, whatever, until they're 49 being contributed, like that's a lot of money to
It
add
was.
up over that period of time. It's
Well,
good for the
especially
kids,
Well, especially back then, I was working full time at the time, and I would have been able to put that money into that, and at
Yeah.
the same time, my doctor refused to fill it out. He says no, like he was really adamant about it. He says,
Sounds like he kind of screwed you over.
well, yeah, basically, I mean, but he basically was so upset with the BC government at the time because they had put a lot of people were through reassessments to try to determine if they're still disabled. So he was just beyond himself with government. Like he said, it was too much red tape involved, and he says, I don't have time. I'm a surgeon. He says, I got to do surgeries at the hospital and also have my own practice. So like he was back and forth between the hospital and his own office. So
he wasn't a general practitioner, eh? He was like
he was a surgeon. Yeah, he was a surgeon. So like I understood his point, but at the same time, I was so upset because like I got screwed over for something that I could have been eligible for, possibly, right? But and again, I kind of look at it as a barrier, like that with that CDB. We're talking about diabetes and disability, like how important that it is to have the funds. I mean, to help people with their conditions. And of course, the federal government's just playing that little carrot trick right now of, well, look, we've got more to do. We got more to do. Well, I mean, and it's not helping anyone. It was up to $200 only for DTC, and that's not even. It's going to go to a small portion of the population maybe next year. If I had a crystal ball, I think that it's all going to get redone.
Well, I had two closing comments, Brent. The first one is in partnership with the CDB. You and I have put out a petition now, an e-petition.
Yes.
E5047. Just and everybody can just Google that. It's E-5047, and that's asking for a DERB, a disability emergency response benefit. Well, the federal government is figuring things out, and like you said, tying their shoelaces together. They should try to come up with some sort of DERB, an emergency response benefit for people with disabilities across the country. That's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to say in connection with the disability registered disability savings plan is one of the arguments that I have all the time with the provincial government when I send emails is it bugs me that for whatever reason, like the federal government and the provincial government, they acknowledge, they validate and acknowledge that RDSP is a good and valid income, but yet they discredit and invalidate Canada pension plans or any kind of survivor benefits or anything like that, or even workers' comp benefits or veterans pensions, and like, I mean, the idea that they can say, well, this RDSP is valid, but this pension isn't. That's just bananas. So that's my closing thing.
Well, I don't think you can actually touch the RDSP until you're 65, though.
You can't. But I'm just making the comment that it bugs me that both the province and federal government says, oh yeah, the RDSP is fine. We won't touch that. It's fine. We won't touch it. But yet we'll crap all over your pensions and we'll claw them back.
Frustrating.
It doesn't make sense.
No, it makes no sense at all. And no clawback should even exist in Canada at all for persons with disabilities. I mean, having a disability is already, it's a life situation that people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and having barriers in the way, as government would call barriers, their terminology, I just call it is what people have to deal with. But it is more of about an accessibility issue, right? It's about making things better for people, giving them the resources. People shouldn't really have to say, well, can I pretty please have more money for rent, or I can buy some nutritional food? Go to the food bank. They'll give you what you need. No, they won't. No. No. Just give people the money that they need so they know better what to buy for themselves. Canada's a wealthy country. It's supposed to be, right? They give out billions of dollars to corporate entities as a tax havens. They just, hey, you don't have to pay your tax. I'm not going to get into all that stuff on this segment. That'll be another rant for another show for sure. But again, it's just an income wealth misdistribution, right? Is what it is. It's equal out the funds across the board and give people the money that they can buy. Have all your needs met, not even just basic needs, but your overall living costs, like high cost of rent, your high cost of food. Basically disability related supplies that you need, as Sonjia and yourself, Patrick, have talked about on the podcast. It's all these things are, I think it's just people in general think, oh, well, people with disabilities are all well taken care of. No, actually not. Until you get a disability and then you're on a program, then you realize, wait a minute, this is not how it was supposed to be. And I call it a poverty trap, and it shouldn't be that way. I call it as a government has a legal responsibility to take care of their citizens. So let's get it done. People, you see, these petitions out there, you probably think, it's a waste of time. It's a chance to try to put pressure on the government, saying, hey, we got CERB out right away. It took really quick. It was really quick to get out there. Now DERB is basically like the same thing. However, it needs to be enhanced. We need to get it up to at least I think the living wage, they call it in Vancouver, Patrick, and Sonjia. It's the last time I looked was $2,423. They said is the most basic amount in Vancouver. That's without a disability. So at least that would be a starting point. Now,
but that's what the actual rents are going for.
Well, that's the thing.
Don't have much for food after you pay your rent.
But you look at what the Neil, you look at what the provincial rate is in BC right now. It's $14.83.50. That's without the bus pass. If you opt out of the bus pass, you're going to get $15.35. So $14.83. But they said the living wage in Vancouver is $2,423. That's $940 difference. Imagine $940 more in a person's pocket. Now in Ontario, that would be even more, like the equivalent of what the living wage is. So, that's, go ahead.
Here in Ontario, there's a program called Passport, which is for people with specific types of disabilities to access an additional $5,500 for technology and social engagements. But you have to have a specific type of disability in order to get that.
Right.
I contacted the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal about this, and I was told that no, it's legal. They're allowed. It's discrimination, but it's a legal discrimination. It's just crap.
It's things people can have it, other people can't.
Imagine a program that pays for your phone and internet every month. To start. Just the phone bill alone is $50 a month minimum. The internet, that's another $50 minimum. It's not right. And to get show tickets to be able to go to the Cineplex once in a while, it's covered.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you make a great,
but you're not dumb enough to get this program. Sorry.
Yeah, you make a great point, Patrick, because I actually say that all the time. This idea that it's like the stratification of discrimination, right? Systemic discrimination that's stratified is like the haves and have-nots of the disability. Like, well, you're disabled, but you're not in the elite of the disabled or something, right? So all the stratification of we always say, well, you deserve a rent subsidy and you don't, or you deserve an RGI and you don't, and
Yep.
and
I'll give you another example about some supplements with the BC government. I remember once upon a time a worker who had retired. Before she had retired, she had said, Brent, there's all these supplements, okay? You need to utilize all these supplements that we provide. I mean, and that way it's going to be as a top up. And I go, wow, okay, so how do I do that? Well, you get your family doctor to go and fill the form out. And I said, oh, okay. So I had this form and I gave it to him. That's when he blew a gasket. He's like, okay, so you, Brent, you don't have celiac disease. You don't have this. You don't have this. You don't have this. You don't have this. You don't have any of this extra stuff for supplements. I can't make this stuff up. I can't sign off on it and say, well, yeah, I mean, he's got to have the dialysis treatment because he can't, have, different things. And I'm like, what? And I didn't know anything. And he goes, who gave this to you? My worker. Well, hands it back. He says, give it back to her. Take it back and say, my doctor says I don't have any of this. Trust me, you don't want to have these conditions.
Yeah, really.
You have enough disabilities to deal with right now. As you get older, you probably will get more disabilities. Hopefully you don't. I mean, as we get older, he said, even the doc. I mean, I'm a doctor. I'm sure I'm going to get more disabilities. I go, oh, really?
Things happen.
Things happen. Like exactly that's what he said. And I mean, with somebody saying, oh, yeah, go ahead and apply for all this stuff. Well, I mean, are they a doctor? Because I'm a doctor and I can't diagnose you. You don't have them, and I can't make stuff up. It's illegal to make up stuff, right? I lose my license. Yeah. So that's, for a note for people to listen when they're listening to this, if a doctor says, or a worker says, go and get your doctor to fill out all these forms. No, a doctor will not fill it out. I know. And if they do fill it out, just be careful. Because your doctor, you may lose that doctor, right? So,
the doctor,
I want to thank everyone for listening in today to this great show with Ms. Sonjia and Patrick talking about type 1 diabetes and disability related supplements and the cost of living, how it affects your day-to-day life, and why the rates need to be increased for persons with disabilities in Canada. There's no reason why rates can't be up to a standard of living. What is that standard of living? Well, we'll dive into more about that on other future shows. I'd like to do a follow-up with both of you and have you both come on. Why don't we check back in and say September, and we'll reconvene and see where things are at. And we'll do a little follow-up maybe every 2 months, 3 months on this segment regarding diabetes. I'm sure that Sonjia will be listening in on other future podcast shows because there, and Patrick, as usual, will be doing another follow-up with our normal programming. So
we should say too that going forward, we will be rolling out more and more of these shows of just individual panelists. Like maybe 1 or 2 panelists coming on. As more of a sort of an easier way for people to engage with just like 1 or 2 panelists, and also we've been getting feedback from people that only listen on the audio. We're getting way more people listening on audio now on Spotify, and the feedback that we're getting is it's actually a lot easier to track 3 or 4 voices on the podcast than it is like to track like 6 or 7 or 8. Yeah. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I think we're going to be moving to these more specialized things of still having panelists on, but having them on like 1 or 2 at a time. So that's maybe a change that we're going to be implementing more going forward.
It's just easier for people to really focus on who's actually speaking next, and then having that flow of the conversation back and forth. That way they can follow the timeline of what the conversation's about. And I mean, everyone has great ideas and great conversations. And I love the conversations that we all have. But it's more streamlining the conversations, keeping things all really focused, and having true life experiences of what people go through on a day-to-day basis, and maybe their perspectives on ideas of where where things, they want to see things going with the, how, if it's, say, government related, or what they want to see changed. Is it about accessibility? Is it like home improvements? Is it about transit? Is it about environment? I'm going to be doing some segments coming up regarding environment too. I want to get and like how it affects people with disabilities in their lives, like environmental stuff, and how that really affects people too. So I think that's so important to focus on a lot of different topics. If anyone has any ideas on future shows, what you'd like to see, would you like to be a guest to come on?
I still want to get Lorelei on.
I know. I've been trying to get Lorelei. If you're listening to this, we're reaching out. Because I think it's
she's a good one with talking about environmental issues. Like she's big with that, right? That's why I blurted out her name. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And last time we had Lorelei on, we were talking about straws, about plastic straws versus paper straws.
Oh. Yeah. It was great.
And I think I did a Breaking with Brent segment talking about exactly the same thing with the Tim Hortons location there. I think it was somewhere in Toronto, I believe, that they were talking about coming out with paper lids.
Yep.
And BC hasn't done that yet. And I said, if Tim Hortons does that, that'll be it. That'll be it for Tim Hortons. I won't be drinking paper. So
we'll have to bring our own.
Bring your own mugs. Yeah.
Bring mugs. Yeah. Maybe they'll give me a discount out because I'm bringing my own cup.
I think he give you a nickel off.
Yeah. Nickelback. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Chad, you like that one? Nickelback.
Yeah.
Nickelback on.
Okay, I'll get Mr. Nickelback. I'll say, yeah.
Yeah, get him to do something for Timmy's instead of Bieber there. That'd be better.
Go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. That'd be better. Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. And stay tuned to our next episode. And if you want to be a guest, reach out to Neil or myself. Take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah.